He is passionate about what he's talking about, and eventually, Arna is a high school junior, but she's already been a powerful podcaster host for the past 5 years, running Arna's News, a collection of interviews of brilliant female professionals aiming to encourage her audience of young girls to pursue male-dominated fields. Arna is a budding entrepreneur too, who is currently working to co-lead a team of developers to tackle AI and mental health. Let's hear her today.
One of my special talents in life is the ability to get hopelessly lost in a Costco. Every single time. I walk in with a mission, get eggs, and somehow, an hour later, I'm transported deep in the jungle of wool paper towels, wondering if I'll ever see my mother again. But it's not my fault. The management seems to rearrange everything every week like it's some kind of psychological experiment. But here's the thing. When you do get lost in that endless labyrinth of free samples and oversized canned beans, what do? Do you pretend to ask for help? Or do you fake confidence when you're totally meant to end up in the aisle of industrial-sized tubs of peanut butter? Because let's be honest, getting lost, both in real life and in Costco, is inevitable. The real question is, how do you find your way out and not fall back into your comfort zone? Or even better, have you ever gotten your Pizookie order wrong at your local PJ's? Heck, if my Oreo Pizookie were swapped for something else, I'd definitely want the right order, right? So one time, my order didn't go through. I told the waitress about it, and not only did I get my previous order, but I got my Oreo Pizookie on the house, paying only for the price of one, all with the sole power of asking for help. And this brings me to my point. Outside of school or work, when things don't seem to go our way, we take action towards correcting that. However, if you were to bring the same situation to your school cafeteria or workplace, 9 times out of 10, we react by letting this go and keeping to our comfort zone. There's this apparent contrast between fearlessly asking for help in an unfamiliar environment and hesitating in a familiar place because it goes against our mental routine and makes us feel uncomfortable. And don't get me wrong, there's no problem sticking to what we feel comfortable with. Comfort equals safety, and entering a new territory can set off our fight or flight responses. We tend to freeze up and get the usual symptoms of clammy hands, a racing heart, and can't forget the dizziness. This anxiety and fear leads us to have a heightened state of alertness and a feeling of being on edge, where nerves kick in and make us go bonkers. I mean, has your teacher ever called on you using a spinner wheel or popsicle sticks? Anyone? Well, for me, I have. The moments leading up to that selection can seem so daunting because that is when we are on edge. We tend to get nervous, and all of that anxious and anxiety can lead us to feel on edge, and we fear leaving our comfort zone. But this is not a mere observation. Science explains how our brain perceives new challenges. There are several ways in which the human psyche is designed to keep us safe. Dr. Joseph Ledoux, an American neurologist, has done interesting research that highlights the amygdala, the brain center of processing emotions, and it's highlighting its role for the amygdala, which is its way to process fear and threat detection. What's incredible about his research is that when the amygdala is when entering a new situation, the amygdala triggers fear or anxiety, pushing us to stay within our comfort zone and setting off our fight or flight responses, preparing the body for action. What's incredible about Ledoux's research is that he has scientifically found out that there are ways to overcome such pathological fears by treating fear and rewiring fear to our brains as a means to learn, not as a means to an end. For example, the most courageous role models that we've heard of in history have to venture out one way or another out of their comfort zone, right? Well, my role model is Sally Ride, the first American woman to go to space. The reason why she's my role model isn't necessarily because of her accolades, but because she had to brave the storm and show the naysayers that she was equally as capable as a male astronaut. And she did just this. inspiring a generation of girls to pursue science and math with greater focus and reach the stars. But there's a difference between raising the bar and falling into having this perfectionist mindset of setting unrealistically high standards and becoming overly critical of mistakes. We tend to have this analysis paralysis mindset where we think situations are either perfect or a complete failure. Pair this with our fight or flight responses, and that is why our minds are naturally fine-tuned to wanting to stick to what we feel safe with. It's human nature and is often idealized by society and branded as security, safety, and stability. However, there is a danger when sticking to our comfort zone though. According to Lucy Green, a strategic coach, perfectionists are always on the push for brainstorming, researching, and planning. But when it comes to finally executing that idea, they fall short. It's the remaining 20% that they fall short on. And why? Because that's the part that actually takes them out of their comfort zone. Think about it like this. If you're interested in playing a sport, let's say field hockey for example, well first you find a coach who will teach you how to hold your stick, learn your passes, and get a good grip on your skills. You'd find a team to play with and learn how to play with other athletes. But all of this hard work would really only boil down to game day, the long-awaited championship. If you were to chicken out and not play on this day, then all that hard work would have been for nothing. It's often that last part, which is often the most challenging, and that's what pushes us out of our comfort zone. And Harvard's Division of Continuing Education states this perfectly. High levels of stress inhibit performance. It's a cherry on top of completing the last action and the task at hand, which is often the difficult part, applying what we've been doing ourselves to a real world context. And that is why it's daunting to leave what we feel familiar to be. For me, leaving my comfort zone has been difficult, both in school and at home. As a student myself, I remember this absolutely vividly. The second day of my sophomore year AP Calculus AB class last year, when my teacher asked if we had any questions regarding the homework, the entire classroom went dead silent. The previous night, I circled maybe 3 to 4 questions to ask because I knew that if I didn't get them out then, I wouldn't get it now. It's going to build upon itself. And so, with my heart racing as fast as a cheetah hunting its prey, I asked my first question. The entire classroom turned their heads to look my way and probably judge me, but I figured we come to school to learn, not to worry about being judged. And so I asked my first question, got it answered, and asked some more. In fact, I probably took around 15 minutes of class time, but it didn't matter. And so I kept this momentum going the rest of my sophomore year, and lo and behold, not only did I end both semesters with A+ in the class, but I earned 5 on the AP exam. And to think, if I didn't ask these initial questions in the beginning, I probably would have been too scared later on to ask these questions. And who knows, maybe the questions I asked that day helped clarify some doubts that my peers might have had. But in the end, asking for help and getting out of my comfort zone benefited me the most in the long run. Sticking to our habitual routine and clinging to our comfort zone can limit our potential. I mean, if you were to eat the same burger for lunch every day, you're bound to get bored, right? Why not try a slice of pizza or a roll of sushi? Your mind and body function the same. There is always room for us to learn and apply that learning to our routine. I mean, how do we even get a routine to start off in the beginning, right? We must eventually somewhere. When we become comfortable, that is when it's time for a change, as we may never discover our true capabilities or passions if we stick to what we feel familiar to be. I'm going to go back to my own examples. For me, getting out of my comfort zone is difficult, even at home. For my podcast channel, Artist News, I remember my first ever interview with a professional named Gencheva, a YouTuber who has now gone viral for her tech videos. I've had this fear ever since I was a kid to only talk to people in my grade, in my class. I would never socialize with people above me and you're below me. Talking to my own teachers seemed scary. So you can imagine how terrified I was to have this conversation with such an esteemed professional. Funny to admit it, but my mother had to be in the same room as me, holding my hand the entirety of the 20-minute conversation and recorded the audio on her phone just in case my computers crashed. I had so many precautions held just in case because it was my first time entering these uncharted waters. My nerves were so high that to this day, whenever I tune into episode 14 on my channel, I can still hear my shrill voice, nervous that I'd messed something up. And well, fast forward to today. I've constantly gone out of my comfort zone and challenged myself, making friends with my SAT group, because I never thought I'd socialize in, and signing up for events, even though I was nervous in the present moment, because I knew I'd learn something later down the road, and keeping myself open to new opportunities, all because of this learning token with someone with much more experience than me, all because I have the willingness to dream big and venture out of my comfort zone. Thank you.
You did very well today as well. Good luck to your pursuits, inspiring girls are now. Our next speaker, Shivain Senthilkumaran, is a sophomore at Valley Christian High School. A water polo athlete and a dedicated volunteer for Cake for Kids. But what truly sets him apart is the compassion he brings to everything he does, especially his work with children at the Pine Ridge Reservation. Last summer, Shivain spent time on the reservation to create something lasting, a traveling mini library, games, and personalized goodie bags meant to spark joy in the children. Shivain's work proves that leadership isn't always loud, but it's always deeply felt.
I remember the first time I heard the phrase, "Don't compare apples to oranges." I was puzzled, trying to understand the meaning of such a simple concept, and at the same time wondered how this idiom made the light of day. It seems so simple. Both are fruit, round, juicy, and grow on trees. So why compare? And apparently I was not alone in questioning this idiom. Scott Sanford of the NASA Ames Research Center took this a step further. He used infrared spectrometry to compare a Granny Smith apple to a sun-kissed orange, and found that the spectra of the two fruits are strikingly similar. But this study, later published, uncovered a much deeper topic rather than the obvious comparison at hand, the topic of symbiosis. But let me take this metaphor further for you today. Take my brother and I would consider myself an extrovert. I'm outgoing and almost always ready to jump into something new. He, on the other hand, is quiet, reserved, and thoughtful. And growing up, this difference frustrated me a lot. I wanted him to speak up more, and he probably wished that I would slow down sometimes. But over time, I realized that we actually balanced each other out. I remember working on a project with him. While I handled the talking, he made sense of the board he made. And I realized that introverts and extroverts don't just coexist. They complement each other in ways that make both stronger. Much like in life or at school, there's always one person who will take charge, assign roles, and keep everyone on track, while another will quietly refine ideas and ensure accuracy. One thrives in the spotlight, while another quietly works behind the scenes. Now, which is more important? The truth is, neither. While the loud leader might seem like the driving force, without the quiet thinkers, the work might be all flash and no substance. And without the leader to bring these ideas to life, the quiet thinker's work might never even be seen. In 1921, Carl Jung popularized the terms introvert and extrovert as building blocks of personality. Jung, an introvert himself, noted that introverts are drawn to the inner world of thoughts and feelings, whereas extroverts crave the external world of people and activities. Introverts prefer less stimulation, and their energy gets depleted in social situations, whereas extroverts gain energy from social situations. This difference to reactivity to stimulation shapes how they engage with the world. In a world where we separate people into two categories, it may seem like extroverts have the advantage. And when we praise loudness and confidence, the reality is introverts and extroverts don't just coexist, they need each other. And we can see this in some of the world's most powerful partnerships. Take Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. Jobs was the extrovert, the charismatic visionary who could sell a product before it was even built. Wozniak was the quiet genius who actually made it happen. Without Jobs, Apple wouldn't have become a global brand. And without Wozniak, there would have been no product to sell in the first place. One without the other, no Apple. Or look at Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks. King was the dynamic speaker, the public force of the civil rights movement. Parks, in contrast, was reserved, and soft-spoken, but her quiet act of defiance, refusing to give her seat up, became the spark that ignited a movement. While King's words inspired, Parks' actions proved that change can come from stillness too. Their impact wasn't a result of their similarities, but because of the differences that made them stronger together. At the Pine Ridge Reservation, I remember working with the Lakota children. I was loud and excited and eager to get the children involved in games, trying to create a fun and welcoming environment. While my teammates took a more quiet and observant approach, trying to focus on the technical aspects of teaching and ensuring that the kids felt heard. I quickly realized that although we had different ways of engaging the children, our differences were a strength. My extroverted energy helped bring excitement, while their introverted energy helped the kids feel heard. Together, we created an environment where the kids felt safe, cared for, and valued. I saw this same dynamic in a place with a lot more water. During a crucial water polo game against a rival school, with just 28 seconds left in the clock and the score tied, we found ourselves in a timeout. And a usually quiet teammate of mine had a brilliant idea for a play, one which we called X. But he hesitated to share his idea with the coach. And instead, he decided to whisper his idea into my ear. As the referee blew the whistle and the final seconds began, time slowed down and I decided to call the play. It felt like a risk, but as we executed it, everything fell into place, and that led us to score the winning goal. If my teammate hadn't shared his idea with me, or if I hadn't listened to him, we might have lost that game. And our victory came from a mix of listening to each other, trusting each other, and acting on the spot. Even in nature, we see this balance. Clownfish and sea anemone rely on each other. The clownfish provides food, while the sea anemone provides protection. When you separate them, they struggle, but together, they thrive. Introverts and extroverts are the same. Extroverts bring enthusiasm and drive conversations, while introverts bring depth and careful thought. Extroverts take actions quickly, while introverts consider the long-term consequences. And when it comes to communication, extroverts can express their ideas openly, while introverts analyze before they say anything to ensure that their words carry weight. And in relationships, extroverts make tons and tons of connections, while introverts foster meaningful and deep relationships. Rather than viewing extroversion and introversion as opposing forces, we should view them as complementary. And whether in friendships, work environments, or families, this can create a well-rounded and more balanced environment for everyone. If you're an extrovert, value the deep thinkers in your life. And don't underestimate them and look at their silence as emptiness, but as depth. And if you're an introvert, don't underestimate those who pull you into conversations and encourage you to share your voice. Because at the end of the day, success and progress don't come from one personality type overpowering the other, but from the harmony they create together. Yet this idiom about apples to oranges still persists, because as humans, we don't always make connections even when they are obvious. Instead, we compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges, and we mimic our peers, we adopt their views, and we separate people into categories. We just use this idiom of apples to oranges to dismiss the comparisons that we make about people. And even worse, we create invisible divides based off their appearances alone. But as William Beveridge wrote, originality often consists in linking up ideas whose connection was not previously suspected. Our differences are not barriers, they are bridges. And if we learn to embrace them, we create something greater than the sum of our parts. Thank you.
That was wonderful. Thank you very much, Shivani. Our next speaker has been quietly working on an idea that challenges what most of us take for granted. Get ready to hear something fresh from Charvi Cherukuri. Charvi is not only a classical dancer and a tennis player, but a dedicated debater. Her speech and debate pursuits have become her voice, an outlet to articulate empowering ideas and advocate for what matters to her. One of Charvi's most recent projects is the start of a nonprofit called VoicED, born from Charvi's passion to empower individuals and communities with the knowledge to make informed food choices and to combat food mislabeling. Let's hear her out.
menu didn't say anything about nuts being in the brownie. The air hostess had reassured you as well that there were no nuts in your sweet treat. You began to feel itchy and your throat begins to swell up. This nightmare scenario happened to my sister last summer. This nut-free chocolate brownie was in fact not a brownie at all, but a chocolate-filled nut dessert containing one of the nuts she is severely allergic to. My sister was a victim of what is known as food mislabeling. Food mislabeling is a form of food deception that can either be intentional or negligent. Every year, a significant number of people experience allergic reactions due to food mislabeling. This could be because of an overlooked ingredient, an undeclared allergen, or a careless reassurance, putting their lives at risk. Today, I will showcase common types of mislabeling as well as misbranding of our food. I will also discuss the importance of accurate labeling when it comes to consumer health, safety, and trust. Picture this, walking down a grocery store aisle, picking up products that promise to be natural, organic, healthy, only to find out they are not what they claim to be. It is easy to get swept up in labeling deception. Food can be labeled as all natural but have synthetic preservatives, gluten-free but contain gluten, low fat but have high sodium, and organic but have non-organic ingredients, which is why it is important to watch out. There is no one in this situation who hurts more than us, the consumers, which is why we have to examine this phenomenon closely. Did you know that there is no distinct definition for the word natural, yet numerous products claim to be so, confusing consumers who don't understand? As a result, consumers often have to pay more for such products, even though there might not be any nutritional difference. Dr. Marissa Hall and colleagues conducted a study showing that parents tend to choose beverages with the all-natural claim despite their high sugar for their young children in comparison to beverages with just the all-natural label. When it comes to organic foods, the standards are a bit more strict, but these foods may still not be 100% organic. In some cases, these foods could contain sweeteners that add no nutritional value and only serve to enhance taste. Organic foods could contain pesticides, as the organic label does not mean that they are pesticides because there could still be pesticide residue. Imported organic foods may not be as tightly regulated and could still contain heavy metals such as lead, arsenic, and cadmium in the soil and water. Furthermore, companies use sneaky sugar substitutes under the names of agave nectar, fruit juice concentrate, and high fructose corn syrup into deceiving us into thinking that we are making healthy choices. Foods that might be low in calories and high in protein may not be as healthy as you think. For example, low-calorie diet soda could contain many harmful ingredients such as phosphoric acid, and foods that are high in protein, such as protein bars, could contain an excessive amount of sugar. Clearly, there are many health, legal, financial, and ethical concerns that arise from these crafty marketing behaviors. I can go on and on about how companies are trying to pull the wool over us consumers. But now, let's take a look to see what others have done about this. Have you ever heard the ad for Nutella? Breakfast never tasted this good. Many of us were pulled in by this catchy ad and deceptive product label, claiming that Nutella was healthy and part of a balanced meal, including a Californian mom of a 4-year-old. When her friends showed her Nutella's high fat and sugar contents, this mom sued Ferrero, the owner of Nutella, for deceptive advertising in 2012. She called Nutella the next best thing to a candy bar. None of Ferrero's ads mentioned anything about this high fat and sugar content. Instead, they discuss their quality ingredients, such as hazelnuts, skim milk, and just a hint of cocoa. As a result of this lawsuit, Ferrero had to change its nutrition labels, its misleading advertising, and do a $3 million payout. So why is it up to us to decode everything that goes into our bodies? There are so many names for just salt and sugar that we would need a degree in nutrition and chemistry to even understand what is going into our bodies. But the real question that arises from all of this is how are companies able to orchestrate these crafty behaviors? Regrettably, the mislabeling and misbranding of food across America is more common of an occurrence than we would like to believe. Let's put this into perspective. In just 2024, labeling issues and recalls dominated the industry, costing it a grand total of $1.92 billion. That is billion with a B. So, who are the regulatory agencies? The Food and Drug Administration, known as the FDA, is in charge of almost everything we eat, in addition to drugs, cosmetics, and medical devices. On the other hand, the Department of Agriculture, known as the USDA, is in charge of egg, poultry, and meat products. In December of 2020, the FDA warned Whole Foods Market for selling mislabeled foods that did not declare proper allergens in its label. Keep in mind, this was after a recall of more than 30 products being sold under the Whole Foods brand that did not declare at least one major allergen from the previous year. So how are companies able to orchestrate this, and why are these regulatory agencies not providing proper labeling standards? Are they prioritizing the consumers? When I clicked on the USDA website, I was shocked to find over 2,900 food issues, ranging from food contamination all the way to food not declaring proper allergens. In just 2024, 83% of food issues were because food did not declare proper allergens. This includes Costco's recent recall of 80,000 pounds of Kirkland Signature butter for undeclared milk in October of 2024, and chocolate Orgain protein powder for undeclared peanuts in December of 2024. You and I both know that allergies as severe as peanuts can result in anaphylaxis, a life-threatening allergic reaction that requires medical attention right away, even when you're soaring across the Atlantic Ocean. Due to the risk that mislabeling poses, do we need stricter laws, bigger fines, and more penalties so that companies aren't driven by profit and actually prioritize the safety of us consumers? Back to being mid-air, 35,000 feet above the Atlantic Ocean. We are so fortunate that we were able to figure out my sister was having an allergic reaction to an undeclared nut when she unknowingly consumed her chocolate dessert. Not everyone is as lucky as my sister was that day, because a fellow passenger and advised medical professional was able to give us the right help at the right time. Serving food should not require information or guarantees from flight attendants. Companies need to start providing truthful labeling. Regulatory agencies need to start doing their jobs effectively so that we can nourish ourselves properly with the assurance that the food we are eating will not compromise our health, or worse, take our life. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Dennis Biju. Dennis is a student who doesn't just ask how things work. He relentlessly asks why. After completing a winter internship at Harvard focused on artificial intelligence, Dennis has set his sight on the cutting edge of AI and quantum computing. He's driven by intellectual curiosity and a strong conviction to turn ideas into action. Whether he's preparing for coding competitions or exploring abstract theory, Dennis doesn't stop at the first solution, but finds new paths and creates his own. Dennis represents the kind of mind that will shape the future we're all heading into. Let's hear him out.
I have a confession. It's a heavy secret that has been weighing on me for quite some time. Adults don't know everything. I know this for a fact because anytime I ask my parents a question, it feels like I can never get an answer. Like this one time. I asked my mom what a pigeon I saw in the sky. I asked her, instead of a bird in the sky, how's it able to stay afloat? Can it also start growing wings? Does it ever get bored? Why does it keep making those noises? Why doesn't it speak in a way that we can understand? If it can fly, why doesn't it touch the moon or even the sun? Doesn't it get motion sick? And I kept on asking until my mom bought me some ice cream. The hope was showing. In retrospect, maybe I just asked too many questions. Regardless, my love for questioning things got me hooked on finding answers for myself and by myself. This meant I would research almost anything and everything. This led me to knowing some very random facts, like the exact altitude at which the golden eagle can fly before losing cognitive function. It's 13,120 feet, by the way. But as I grew older, I noticed that my questions became fewer. Instead of examining the world around me, I took it for granted. I stopped asking why and observing. Rather, I became accustomed to just absorbing what others had said before me. So, what happened? When we get older, do we just lose our natural curiosity? Or do we learn to prioritize differently? To a young child, learning is essentially a requirement to start living in the world. It's like doing the tutorial for a game that's like nothing you've ever played before. That's why they devote so much of their energy to being curious. With no prior knowledge or experience to rely on, their only way forward is through asking questions to the people around them. And as young children, we enjoy learning. We bring an impressive amount of energy and resources to the task. Anyone who's played a game of memory against a 4-year-old can attest to that. Their ability to store and learn information is amazing. However, as we grow older, we put more and more of these little interactions on autopilot. And they just become another part of our day-to-day life. We begin to cut down on unnecessary spendings of energy, right? We make every single process and system as efficient as possible, and all of a sudden, curiosity is no longer valued. It becomes another fairy tale of a distant childhood. Imagine this. You're playing a video game using only a sword and a shield. They're solid though. You keep learning level after level using the same 2 weapons. But by only using these 2 weapons, you're missing out on countless hidden weapons, experiences, abilities, quests, and even new characters you could have met. Living life without curiosity is the same. Sure, we could all take the most straightforward and direct path to the end. But then we'd miss out on memories, adventures, experiences, journeys, and laughs that could have come if we just took that path to the side. It's not all over for them. Adults can still be forced to re-engage that knowledge acquisition most children have when, for instance, we're placed in an entirely new environment and required to learn how to interact effectively from scratch. It's similar to the sense of wonder that most people have when learning to scuba dive for the first time. Or, for that matter, downhill skiing is a good example. We find wonder and enthusiasm as we deploy all of our energy and resources to negotiate a steep learning curve. In exchange, we gain a new set of experiences, When adults are placed in a situation with no prior knowledge or experience, the only way forward is through curiosity. But we shouldn't only rely on curiosity when we're forced to. We need to cultivate a naturally curious mindset. A study from the National Library of Medicine found that when we're curious, we tend to learn better. A teacher who made their students curious about a topic before teaching led to students scoring 20% better on tests. Why? Because when you're curious, learning tends to become more natural. You don't have to force yourself to sit down and memorize facts. Rather, you'll naturally feel the urge to fill in the holes of your knowledge and find the answers to your unanswered questions. Your cognitive functions improve because when you're curious, your brain begins to release dopamine. This is the same dopamine that's released when you clear a hard level in a video game or you eat your favorite food. The dopamine acts as an incentivizer, communicating to your brain to continue doing whatever it is that you're doing, motivating your mind to spend more resources and energy toward being curious, getting a boost of dopamine each step of the way. Now, there's a common misconception that curiosity is a trait, and it's not. Anyone can be curious. You don't have to be born with a million questions in your head. But curiosity isn't just as simple as asking why. It's going above and beyond the initial question. True curiosity is achieved when you dedicate yourself to a topic. Because anyone can ask a simple question. But to be truly curious is to find the answers to your questions. Now, there are two main types of curiosity: specific curiosity and epistemic curiosity. Let me give you an example. Let's suppose you and your friends are talking about a movie, and you just so happen to forget what the name of the lead actor is. What do you do? Go out your phone, quickly search it up. That is specific curiosity. It's essentially the urge to know really specific detail. On the other hand, epistemic curiosity is more closely defined as wanting a deeper and broader understanding of a concept or topic. For example, when I was younger, I was hooked on literacy. I was fascinated by how people had found countless ways to solve a puzzle that to me seemed so complex and impossible. After a stroke of inspiration, I bought my first cube from Walmart, and I watched a YouTube tutorial to get to solve it for the first time. That solve took me a whole day. But every day after that, I learned more and more algorithms, and I found the most efficient way to solve a cube. Eventually, I brought my time for just 1 minute. Employing curiosity when you're learning something new is the best way to become more well-versed in a concept or topic. Because you motivate your mind to start spending more resources and energy to learn more and more. Malcolm Gladwell once famously said, it takes 10,000 hours to obtain mastery of a skill. And it's curiosity that sparks the first hour and keeps you dedicated until the last hour. Think about everything you know now, every fact, every skill, every relationship you got because at some point you were curious enough to explore. Now imagine where you'll be a year from now if you keep that curiosity alive. All the places you go, all the people you meet, all the skills you learn, all with curiosity. So leave some room for curiosity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Curiosity killed the cat, thought the dog. We are almost to the end. And here I have our next and last presenter, Nidhi Yalamraju. Nidhi's superpower is her advocacy through mock trials as the defense attorney. She believes that mock trial is her superpower because she's an excellent advocate for her clients. She thinks fast on her feet, and she can be very persuasive. Nidhi loves to learn about the law and how it affects our society. So, let's welcome the future United States Attorney General, Nidhi Yalamraju.
woke up one morning in 2015 to discover a low-quality image of a striped dress with the caption, "What color is this dress?" Social media, news stations, and workplaces were buzzing. Over 78 million people had viewed the post, and the answers ranged from, "I see blue and black," to "No, it's obviously white and yellow," to "I think I'm just losing my mind." No one seemed to agree. How is it that one simple dress could divide the world? Was the dress blue and black, or was it white and gold? It all comes down to perspective. A color can look completely different depending on the shades, colors, and things around it. What seems obvious to one person might look completely different to another. Light vision starts in our eyes, but occurs mostly in our brains. Light enters through the retina, where it's translated into electrical signals that are then sent to the brain's visual cortex. But here's the thing. Our brains don't just receive information, they create our reality based on context and experiences. The dress wasn't just blue and black or white and gold. It was shaped by perspective. Now, there's actually a term for this, qualia. Qualia refers to the deeply personal way that we experience sensations like color, taste, and sound. The big philosophical question about qualia is whether we can truly share our unique experiences with someone else. Like, could you truly share seeing the color red with someone who has never seen it before? Could they truly understand it before seeing it themselves? This relates directly to the meaning of perception. According to Webster, perception is a belief or idea based on how things may seem to us. And that right there is the key. Perception isn't about objective truth. It's about how we choose to interpret reality. As the saying goes, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Now, what if I told you that the color blue isn't as objective as you think? Not because of color blindness or faulty vision, but because your experience of blue might not match someone else's. The word blue is just a label we've all agreed on as a society. In truth, the light wavelength doesn't change at all. Our perspective does, shaped on what we've been taught to see. What if I told you that the sky was green? If all your life you have been taught it was green. If every single person around you called it green, you would accept that as the truth. But here's the thing, the sky wouldn't have changed at all. Your perspective did. The truth didn't shift. Your perspective did. Now you're probably saying, of course the sky is blue. We've always known that. But how do you actually know? You see blue because your brain interprets those wavelengths as blue. But what if someone else's brain interprets those exact same wavelengths as green? What if from birth they were taught that that color was green? To them, that green would be just as undeniable as your. Now, this isn't just about colors, it's about everything. We live in a society where perspectives are often framed as my truth versus your truth. But what if perspectives aren't opposing? What if they aren't rigid? What if they grow and change as we learn and adapt to reality? I had to answer these questions for myself during my first ever mock trial round. I sat at the table, mentally preparing myself for the battle ahead. When it was my turn, I stood up, straightened my shoulders, and cleared my throat. I began speaking. My voice was strong, my tone was confident, and most importantly, I felt in the zone. But when the feedback came, I was utterly surprised. Your performance was way too energetic. Too energetic? Wasn't passion supposed to be a good thing? Doesn't enthusiasm show commitment? I felt hurt. Had I done something wrong? But as I looked down at the 9s and 10s on my score sheet, I realized something important. This wasn't about right or wrong. It was about perspective. What one judge had seen as too energetic, others had seen as passion and as drive. I had assumed that there was one clear way to perform, when in reality, there wasn't. The judge's own feedback was based on their own interpretations, just like perception itself. That's when it hit me. Perspectives aren't fixed. They're fluid and adaptable as we learn and experience life. My energy wasn't inherently good or bad, it was just one way of interpreting my performance. And this idea extends far beyond just me and you. Throughout history, ideas about gender roles, intelligence, and society itself have changed. A woman in the 19th century with strong morals and ideals would have been considered unruly. But today, she would be seen as a leader. The qualities themselves aren't what changed, our perspective on them did. Perspective isn't just about what we see either. It's about how we choose to act. Every single breakthrough in our history came from someone who was willing to look at a problem differently than those before them. The Wright brothers, they saw air resistance not as an obstacle, but as an advantage. Einstein questioned time itself. Every single major breakthrough we've had in our society came from someone who was willing to challenge the dominant perspective. So what does this all mean? If perspective is fluid and if truth is based on interpretation, how are we supposed to navigate this complex? It means that understanding that how we see things isn't necessarily how they are. It means that understanding that reality isn't just a single unmovable truth, but an evolving experience shaped by every single action we make. Perspective is powerful. It can confine us, or it can free us. It can keep us stuck in the past, or it can push us forward into the future. So here's my challenge to you. Next time you encounter a belief or idea you've always just accepted like that, question it. Turn it over. Look at it from a different angle. Because the truth isn't just what we see, it's about how we choose to see it. And maybe, just maybe, the world isn't as blue as you think it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, what a night. Wasn't that amazing? They did not just deliver speeches, these were sparks. Thank you. Thank you so much to our incredible speakers. Thank you for stepping it up, for doing the hard work of preparation, writing and rewriting these speeches, doing all the tedious edits, and showing up every Monday night, despite you maybe being tired, having homework, and sitting there for almost 2.5 hours with me. I really, really appreciate it. you didn't just deliver speeches tonight, you delivered pieces of yourself. And I sincerely believe that you will remember this event and it will serve you well in the future. Thank you to all of our volunteers who came in early. They were cutting out badges, and to the tech crew that were fixing all the mics and everything else that made this event possible. To the rest of you, if this evening moved you, if the speeches meant something insightful to you, then I encourage you to stay in touch. We plan to have many more such gatherings. So thank you again for being here tonight. I do have one final moment, which will be a photo moment for all of you to take pictures of your children if you'd like, right next to the TED logo. So I will be inviting them here on stage again, where I will be giving them their recognition. They are going to receive a recognition from TED organization, which is a certificate with their name, acknowledging their participation here tonight. And I also have a special gift, which is a book titled Founder 1.0. And the reason why I decided to give that gift to my students is because TED stands for Technology and Entrepreneurship, and obviously ideas worth sharing. And I believe this is one book that still has role models where they can learn and they can read about real entrepreneurs that have started from nothing and they have built empires in the United States. And I believe that looking through their profiles, they'll gain inspiration, and they will use these as real role models when they navigate their future entrepreneurship and technological careers in the future. So each one of them will get the founder book from me. I hope you enjoy it. It's very colorful and very insightful with the autobiographies of each founder and your wonderful names that sit right under the TED logo, which you can frame as the memorabilia of this event. So I'll be calling your name once you come in here. Parents, this is a photo moment for you. And I hope that you have your cams ready. Thank you very much again.